Leaders are readers. The average CEO reads 60 books a year. Reading is the shortcut to success. I heard these messages and I thought I had found the secret. The cheat code. The one thing separating successful people from everyone else. So I became OBSS with reading. I set a goal to read 52 books a year, 1 book per week. I tracked my progress on Goodreads. I joined book clubs. I listened to audiobooks at 2x speed while doing dishes, driving, showering. Basically, every waking moment was consummating books like my life depended on it. And you know what? I hit my goal. 52 books in 1 year. Then I pushed it to 75. Then 100. I was a reading machin. But here's the thing nobody warned me about. After reading over 200 self-improvement books, I wasn't smarter. I wasn't more successful. I wasn't a better person. I was just someone who had read a lot of books. I could quote authors. I could reference studies. I could name drop concepts at dinner parties. But my actual life? Pretty much the same. Meanwhile, I watched people who read maybe 5 books a year absolutely crushing it. Building businesses, achieving their goals, living the life I was reading about. What the hell was going on? That's when I realized something that completely changed my relationship with books. The problem wasn't that reading doesn't work. The problem was how I was reading, and more importantly, WA. Why? So I'm done. I'm done reading books to get smarter. Because here's what nobody tells you. Reading more books might actually be making you dumber. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why, what to do instead. Let me explain what the self-improvement industry sells you. Successful people read. Therefore, if you read, you'll be successful. It sounds logical. It feels true. And it's backed by all these statistics about how many books CEOs read. But this is a classic logical fallacy. It's like saying, Michael Jordan wore Nike shoes. Therefore, if you wear Nike shoes, you'll play like Michael Jordan. Correlation is not causation. Successful people might read a lot. But reading a lot doesn't make you successful. It's not that simple. And here's what's even more problematic. The leaders are readers message has created a culture of reading for the sake of reading. People aren't reading to learn anymore. They're reading to say they read. They're collecting books like trophies. I was one of these people. I cared more about my Goodreads stats than whether I actually learned anything. In the publishing industry, they love this. Every year, thousands of new self-improvement books are released saying basically the same things that were said in books from 50 years ago. But they have new covers, new authors, new ways to package old ideas. And we keep buying them because we've been told that reading more books equals becoming smarter. But that's not how learning works, not even close. Here's why reading more books can actually make you less intelligent. First problem, the illusion of knowledge. When you read something, your brain creates a feeling of familiarity. You are cognized the concepts. You've heard the ideas before. And this familiarity feels like understanding. But recognition is not the same as knowledge. Knowing about something is not the same as knowing it. I could tell you everything about the growth mindset. I read Carol Dweck's book. I read 3 other books that referenced it. I listened to podcasts about it. I could explain it perfectly. But did I actually have a growth mindset? Did my behavior change? Not really. I just knew a lot about a concept I wasn't actually applying. This is the illusion of knowledge. Reading about something tricks your brain into thinking you've learned it. But real learning requires application, not just consumption. Second problem. Passive consumption kills critical thinking. When you're reading book after book, you're in receiving mode. You're absorbing ideas. You're nodding along. You're highlighting passages. But you're not questioning. You're not debating. You're not testing these ideas against reality. I would read one book that said, wake up at 5 a.m. and think, yes, that makes sense. Then I'd read another book that said, sleep is more important than early rising, and think, yes, that makes sense too. I was just agreeing with everything because I was in consumption mode, not thinking mode. Critical thinking requires effort. It requires arguing with ideas. It requires trying things and seeing what works for you. But when you're racing to finish 52 books a year, you don't have time for friction. You just consume and move on. Third problem. Reading can be sophisticated procrastination. This one hit me hard when I finally admitted it to myself. Reading about productivity feels productive. Reading about fitness feels like you're working on your health. Reading about business feels like you're building something, but it's not. Reading about something is not doing that thing. I spent so much time reading about how to start a business that I never actually started a business. I was preparing. I was researching. I was learning everything I needed to know first. But really, I was just scared. And reading was a comfortable way to feel like I was making progress without taking any real risks. Every hour I spent reading about entrepreneurship was an hour I wasn't actually building anything. The reading was a security blanket, a delay tactic dressed up as self-improvement. Fourth problem. Information overload paralyzes action. When you've read 20 books on the same topic, you have 20 different perspectives, different frameworks, 20 different proven strategies, and they often contradict each other. So what do? You read a 21st book hoping it'll clarify things. Then a 22nd. You're searching for the perfect answer, the one book that will finally tell you exactly what to do. But that book doesn't exist. And meanwhile, you're paralyzed. You have too many options, too many frameworks, too much information. The person who read any book and took action is miles ahead of the person who read 50 books and is still figuring out the best approach. This is analysis approach, and reading culture makes it worse. Here's what really bothers me about all this. The self-improvement reading industry has created a loop that keeps you buying but never arriving. You read a book, you feel inspired. You feel like you learned something, but then the motivation fades. You don't see results. So what do? You buy another book. Because clearly, you just haven't found the right information yet. This is the perfect business model. Customers who keep coming back, always searching for the next book that will finally change their life. But the problem was never information. We live in the age of infinite information. You can learn anything for free on YouTube. The knowledge is everywhere. The problem is people like it. The problem is DOIND. And no amount of reading solves that problem. In fact, more reading often makes it worse. I know people who've read every book on fitness but haven't been to a gym in years. People who've read every book on relationships but can't maintain one. People who've read every book on happiness but are miserable. Knowledge without action is just trivia. So what actually works? Here's what I've learned. First, read less, apply more. This sounds counterintuitive in a culture that celebrates reading quantity. But hear me out. One book, deeply understood and fully applied, is worth more than 100 books skimmed and forgotten. When I read a book now, I don't move to the next one immediately. I spend weeks implementing what I learned. I test the ideas. I see what works for me and what doesn't. I probably read 10-12 books a year now instead of 50 plus, but I actually remember them. They actually change my behavior. Quality over quantity. Depth over breadth. Application over accumulation. Replace reading time with doing time. Whatever you're reading about, do it instead. Reading about writing? Write. Reading about fitness? Work out. Reading about business? Build something. Reading about relationships? Have real conversations with real people. I used to read for 2 hours every morning. Now I read for 30 minutes and spend the other 90 minutes DIYing the thing I used to only read about. My progress accelerated immediately. Not because I learned new information, but because I finally started applying the information I already had. The gap between you and your goals is almost never more information. It's more ACTN. Third, reread instead of reading new. Here's something that completely changed my approach. The best books deserve to be read multiple times. Not because you missed something, but because why you change. When you read a great book at 25 and again at 35, you get completely different things from it. Your life experience gives you new context, new questions, new insights. I have maybe 10 books that I return to every year. I know them deeply. They're like old friends who have something new to say each time. This is so much more valuable than racing through 50 new books filled with recycled ideas. Fourth, learn by teaching. If you want to actually understand something, don't just read about it. Teach it to someone else. Teaching forces you to organize your thoughts. It exposes gaps in your understanding. It moves information from passive recognition to active knowledge. Now, whenever I read something I want to remember, I explain it to a friend. I write about it. I make a video. I teach it. This is when learning actually happens. Not when information goes in, but when it comes back, in your own words. Look, I'm not saying books are bad. Books are incredible. Some of my most important life changes came from ideas I found in books. But I am saying that reading more books is not the answer. The cult of quantity is misleading people. It's turning reading into a competitive sport instead of a tool for growth. I spent years using books as a way to feel productive without being productive. As a way to prepare without ever starting. As a sophisticated form of procrastination that I could brag about at parties. Oh, you read 20 books this year? I read 75. What a stupid competition. What a waste of time. The smartest people I know don't read that much. But they think a lot. They do a lot. They take small amounts of information and extract massive value from them. They're not collecting books. They're building lives. So I'm done reading books to get smarter. I'm done with the quantity game. I'm done using reading as a procrastination tool. Instead, I'm reading less and applying more. I'm rereading the books that matter instead of chasing new ones. I'm spending my time DIYing instead of just consuming. If this resonated with you, if you've been stuck on the reading treadmill, collecting books but not changing your life, you're in the right place. Subscribe for more videos that question the rules that don't make sense. And drop a comment telling me, how many books have you read that you can't even remember? I want to know I'm not the only one. I read every single comment. I'm done reading books to get smarter. I'm getting smarter by actually doing things. Are you?